my full-time job allow me to feel less stressed about like profitability or making money for the studio, because I know I have like another cushion to lean on. And then the studio gives me some other sense of accomplishment and joy that even at my job, I'm like frustrated, or if I'm not getting promoted or whatever it is, I feel like, okay, there's something else that I've accomplished outside of work, so this doesn't define who I am or how good I am.
Pole dancers, start your engines. It's time for another episode of the Pole Position Podcast with your host, Beastie.
Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your crazy day to help with this. Also for being so flexible. I know both of our schedules have been a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, having me, and we've been hanging out the whole day, like
Yes.
taking classes, getting brunch, donuts, and coming back here. So it's a great day.
Yes. Okay, so can you start off by telling me about your muggle job, your big girl job?
Yes, my big girl job or my full-time job, I work as a product manager at YouTube. I focus on creator earnings and payments. So I'm really excited about my job because I've always liked finance and making money. So it's a job that I feel like I'm kind of helping others. So I really enjoy it.
How long have you been there?
I've been at YouTube for almost 2 years. And then before that, I was at Intuit, which is also personal finance, like TurboTax, QuickBooks. Yeah.
Did you go to school for money?
I went to school for economics. My mom was working in a bank when I grew up, and she just looks like she has like the best job. She's always traveling to different parts of the world and doesn't seem to be working a lot. So I'm like, I want that job. I studied economics, but then I pivoted into tech because I was really interested in it. I was also, my first job out of college was something really like manual, and I'm like, there has to be a faster, more automated way to do it. So that's how I got interested in tech. Yeah.
That's cool. And with YouTube, like it's almost like those two worlds kind of collided.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Like you were still able to take your finance background. That's
Yes,
cool.
exactly.
And speaking of your mom, you're from Beijing. Are you first generation or were you born in Beijing?
I was born in Beijing. I moved to the US when I was 18 for college. I really like China. There's just so much to do, to eat, the culture, the history, everything. But my high school was really miserable. It was just studying all day, every day, 6 days a week. You have class from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I didn't do any sports, didn't do any arts. I just was this nerd and I just had enough. And I'm like, I need to do something else. So I moved here and I've been in the US since 2012. Yes.
Wow. So was that like a big culture shock? Do you feel like the culture in Beijing is like, did you feel like you were ready to come here and like work and be like this go-getter that you were?
I think, well, I moved to LA, which I think is probably the best place you can move to as a Chinese person because there's a lot of, restaurants and communities, and a lot of people in my college. Actually, I remember my year had like 600 people from Beijing alone, which is crazy. Yeah. So you still feel like pretty like accommodated. If I were to move to somewhere else, like in the middle of the country, I imagine it to be hard. But yeah, I think culturally, like any big city like Beijing, everyone kind of do their own thing. They're always hustling and working. So after coming to like California, I just feel like everyone is so nice for some reason. And that was actually very hard for me to just feel like I can talk to people that I don't know. Like I feel like right now I'm like getting better at it, but even like running my studio, sometimes I have that moment. I'm like, oh, I don't want to really talk to anyone. Please don't talk to me. But then, as a part of your job, you have to be customer facing. So I think that's probably the biggest like cultural difference for me. Yeah.
So you're more of an introvert?
Yeah, introvert or just like don't know how to act very positive and friendly.
I would not have gotten that at all. I get like the literal opposite.
Yeah.
I feel like all of my interactions with you have been so nice. Yeah. So you seem so outgoing.
I feel like we've kind of like
approachable.
known each other for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like all my really close friends, everyone is kind of like sarcastic, and I always feel like I need people who have positivity for sure, but also some negativity, so that it feels like more real.
Yeah. Not this toxic positivity. Yeah, where you're like, this feels fake.
Yeah.
California has really good at being fake nice.
Yeah, but it's good sometimes. You're like, you just suck it up, fake it, and then maybe you'll feel better. So yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I mean, like, you could choose. Would you rather be somebody be genuinely mean to you or fake nice to you? I'm sure it differs
It's a
day
balance.
to day.
Yeah. I'm sure if everyone is mean to me all the time, I will be like missing the nice one.
Yeah. So when did you move to San Francisco?
2019. I moved here because of my boyfriend at the time. Now is my husband. His job was here. I was working in consulting, so I could be based out of anywhere, and I just chose to be here. But I'm really glad because I feel like I wouldn't have got into tech if I didn't move here. Yeah.
Does your mom live here, or
she lives in Beijing, but she's retiring next year. I'm trying to get her to move here.
Yes.
And she is single, so if you know any 50-year plus old single man, let me know. Maybe I'll get her into pole.
Yeah, you should.
That would be an accomplishment. Yeah.
Has she ever tried it with you?
I think she's tried like a chair spin. Chair spin is actually pretty hard. But she's not a very active person. Yeah, growing up, like her motto is life is about resting.
I like your motto. It's a good motto.
Yeah.
So then can you transition us into your pole journey? When did you start pole dancing?
Yeah, I actually tried pole for the first time in China right before I moved here, and it was just too hard. I could not do anything. Everything was painful. Everything was not working, so I gave up. And then after I moved to LA, in college, my junior year, senior year, I had more time and a little bit of money from working another miserable internship. So I went to B-Spawn Studio in West Hollywood, and I started taking choreo classes there. I just really enjoyed the dance elements and wasn't really into tricks because I was very weak and I didn't have any sports or athletic background. And then during the pandemic, I started to be connected to the pole community in the Bay Area. And there was a lot of online classes that were being offered. So I was doing a lot of those, and I got my aerial inverts, I got my shoulder mounts, and I started really falling in love with training tricks. And then that takes me to now. I'm still kind of debating my style and what my focus is, but I just enjoy taking all different types of classes, either as heels, barefoot, static, spin, dynamic, or flowy. I like everything.
It looks like you're really good at everything you've dipped your toes in.
Or I'm really bad at everything and I just keep trying different things.
And it seems so you have no dance background.
I have learned Chinese dance a little bit, but yeah, nothing really serious. And Chinese dance is a lot of props, so a fan or a silk. Yeah. And then you were exploring I means of dance too. Were you trying breaking and stuff? Or I tried I really like hip hop. I wish I had more time to do it. I have tried jazz. But I think I'm just at a point I need to focus. I can't be just trying all sorts of things. But there are a lot of other dance that are really helpful for pole. I did a little bit of zouk. Zouk is a very it's a partner dance, social dance, but it's more expressive and less footwork or things that you need to really confine your movements to. And there's a lot of head movement. So I feel that's really helpful. For me. I also recently found out that Marlo also does zouk, and she's really great at pole. So I feel sometimes the dance really complement each other, and that's kind of what we try to do at Songbird. We have a lot of great dancers that come from different dance background, and they really bring something different just to the classes. And I think it's super, super valuable for a beginner poler to get to know all of those movements and start building those in their routine. Yeah.
And it makes it more friendly for new students who that person moves like me. It opens the door up for somebody to be relatable in that movement, because we all just move so differently. And just not every pole teacher is for every student. So that's cool that you're able to offer a big background. Yes. So then what inspired you to open up Songbird?
It was kind of a very impulsive decision. I went to a pole camp in 2023, January, like in Bali, and it was very immersive. Like I think it was a week or 10 days. I was just hanging out with the same people, taking classes, go home, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, I can just be here all day. I can just do pole all day. How do I do that? And I feel like I am relatively like have some business acumen, so I wanted to combine my strength, like kind of doing business and planning stuff, creating stuff, with my passion for pole and the community. And I just was starting to, think about it as a dream or an idea. And I started doing little things like, oh, let me design a logo. Let me like think about this and this, like merchandise. Would I structure my class? How would I pay my instructor? Because I think there's a lot of areas in like how pole studios are run can be further improved or different. And after, I was also looking for spaces, which was like the hardest part. And I feel like probably I would give up after a month or two, but I did not give up, and I kept going at this idea for like 5 or 6 months just by myself. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't know it was gonna happen. And then after 6 months, I was still looking for a space. I was still doing all these things. So I'm like, okay, maybe this actually will work. And finally, September 2023, we opened, and now we've been almost like a year. Now it's June, yeah, almost a year.
Oh, congratulations. That's so exciting. And it's such a beautiful space.
Thank you.
You picked a good one, and it's a really easy to get to location in the city.
Thank you.
So
yeah.
it's like a nice, safe area.
Yeah.
Was it hard opening up a studio in a city where a lot of other studios exist?
Yes, so originally I didn't want to be in San Francisco because there's a lot of great studios already. I go to all of them. I still go to a lot of them. And then I wanted to be more in the south part, like south of SF, Peninsula area, because the closest one outside of SF is Redwood City, which is still pretty down south. Yep. So I wanted to look for like San Mateo, San Bruno, South San Francisco. But I think, the rents there is really expensive, the zoning law, I didn't want to deal with like that. And then this space in Nob Hill opened up. It has bathroom, ADA compliant, it has HVAC, which are two things I know will be super expensive if you don't have them and have to build them. And the space is small and the rent is like affordable. So I think it's like a good starter for me, and just to see how it goes. And I think that's really important, right? Like you want to give some investment and time, but at the same time, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin and become really like stressed about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that'll take all of the fun out of it, and then you won't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, it's probably going to fail.
Yeah. And like speaking of like other studios, I think every studio offers something different, even though we have a lot of instructors that are overlapping. But I think the types of classes, even the type of students, and like it's different. That's why I still go to SFPD, I go to Verve, I go to Inspiration, I go to Flux. Like I love going to all those studios just for like the different things that I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. And I imagine a big part of it is because San Francisco is mostly like you're walking or public transit, or like you're
so
probably not
matters.
Driving. So location matters.
Yeah,
You're not trying to walk all the way across the city after class at 9 p.m.,
Yeah, yes.
I mean, I wouldn't want to.
We have students, I think 2 students live like right there, just across the street.
Oh, literally can like look
they're
down
like so
into the
close,
studio.
yeah.
So you and your husband, you've been dating then since 2018.
We've been dating since, 2018.
When did you get married?
Okay.
Because you said.
Oh, sorry. yeah. We met in business school. Like, so we know each other before we started dating. Like, we kind of know of each other. And then we got married in 2021. We were supposed to get married in 2020, but then COVID and 2021. Yes.
So how does he support you in, like you work full time and then you're in the studio, and like literally today, we're together all day today?
Yes, he's at a bachelor party in LA, so it's very convenient. I think, he's very supportive. Definitely pole is very new for him. When we first started dating, that was already after I started pole dancing, so he doesn't really have a choice, or pole dancing was definitely my priority. If I'm like dating someone and you're not okay with that, then like we shouldn't keep dating. But it is very new for him, and like because of all my friends are in this community, we're always doing like shows and performances. It's really hard for him to like sit there and watch just hours of pole. Especially it's like we know what's happening on stage, and for them it's just like it's just a stick and everyone is doing kind of similar stuff. But I think it's been really great. Like we spent too much time together during COVID, and now it's kind of like we hang out, we really try to spend like quality time together and travel, but then most of the time, like Monday to Friday or Saturday, we kind of have our own plans after work, and we really like just like doing our own hobbies. He's really into tennis and pickleball. I play it very, very occasionally, but I feel like it's a little tiring for me because it's also upper body.
Yeah. I've actually heard that tennis is a good cross training for pole.
Really?
Yeah, I think because it's a lot of like lateral movement and a lot of shoulder. Well, I mean,
it is a lot of shoulder and wrist.
So if you could use like, if you don't train, like if you're really bad about training both sides, you should just play tennis on the opposite side.
Maybe that's why I feel like I am getting better at tennis, even though I never play. I wonder if it's because of pole.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep, I think so. It's also good cardio if you don't do. I mean, I know you do a lot of dancing and like choreo stuff, which is like a crazy.
Yeah, tennis
workout,
is intense. So much running.
Yeah. So do you guys get to see each other like every night? Like you get to go home together. You like wake up in the morning.
I go home around like 10:30. I think we have like half an hour before we go to sleep. So he always wait for me, and our dog always wait for me. So it's nice. I try to like still be efficient, like not like just linger too long. It's also not safe to be hang out in San Francisco. But I think weekends and Friday nights, Sunday, I try to keep those like completely open. So even if we're just at home cooking lunch or whatever, it's like good time spent. Yeah.
Good. So you guys are able to prioritize the quality time that's necessary.
Yeah.
Has it ever gotten difficult to do that?
I think it has, especially when, like right after pandemic, I feel like I was connected with all my friends and all the pole stuff the whole time. So pandemic, even though a lot of things were online, didn't feel like I was kind of disconnected from other stuff. But for him, it was more different because he was mostly staying at home with me, with our dog. So all of a sudden, I'm always gone every single night, and he doesn't have a community similar to pole. So in the beginning, I think when it's a little uneven, it was difficult because I think it's just he is bored and he wants to hang out, but I have stuff going on. So, but once he find his own community, like we were both newer to the Bay Area, then we're able to like meet each other's friends and like do stuff together, but also do stuff separately. Yeah,
that's cool. So then, can you walk us through a typical day or a week in your life?
Yeah. So a typical day, Monday and Friday. I work from home, so it's a little bit easier. I can just like, get up and go work. But Tuesday to Thursday, I work in the office, and then I come to the studio. So I get up pretty early in the morning. I spend a lot of time just on my phone in the morning trying to wake myself up. I try to go do something in the morning because I like to get a light workout in. I cross train a lot. So I do like weight training, like squats, like mostly lower body stuff. And then I will go to work, have lunch, work a little bit more, and then I'll get to the studio around like 5:30. That's usually when our first class starts. And I try to take a lot of classes because every person that teaches at Songbird is I really like all of the instructors. So I always like learning from them, and also our pay structure is also by head count. So I feel like if I'm taking a class anywhere, I'd rather take a class here and get our instructor paid more, which I really think is important. And then I just hang out here from like 5:30 to 9:30, and I go home. That's pretty much my weekday. Yeah, every day is very similar, very similar.
Is there times where work is maybe more demanding of your time that will take away from your time in the studio?
Yeah, I think what has been really helpful is we have front desk managers, and because we only have one space, it's relatively easy to manage. So if I have to skip out a few days, it's totally fine. Like, we have people here. Our instructors are also really awesome. Like, they know all the procedures with locking up, AC, lights, all of these. So it's pretty self-sustained, and then we have like cleaning people coming in bi-weekly, so it's pretty okay. And I've taken vacations myself. Like, I think before I opened, I was meeting with Jen from Revel Rooms, and she was warning me that like you probably won't be able to take time off or travel, but that's really important for me because both me and my husband's family are like international. He has a lot of families in Brazil, and travel is like something we love. So I've gone multiple trips, like a week or 2 weeks out of town, and it has been fine because of our great studio managers. I also really recommend, even if you are not a business owner, if you just have a side job or something that you're doing, hire virtual assistants because they're very cost effective, and it just take the boring like manual stuff out of your plates. So I started off with like 2 virtual assistants, one focusing on just like logistic of the schedule, customer support, and then one focused on making social media content. It is challenging to communicate with them because a lot of VAs are based like in Asia or like other time zones. So I eventually reduced to only one person, and I trained her how to like do design, how to use Meta Business Suite, how to use Bookie, and she started learning a little bit more about polls. So now she works full time for me. So that's why during the week when it's my like full-time working time, she is there to do all the tasks that I will delegate to her, and then maintaining the normal stuff. So it's been definitely really easy for me.
Where do you think you learned all your leadership skills from?
I think you learn from doing. I am a very process-oriented person. I don't think I'm like really, really organized, but I do like efficiency. Like whatever way that is the most efficient, that's always the way that I go for. So when I started training or started the studio, I just try to think of, if this is my first time doing it, I am going to document what is the steps, what is the process, so I can just easily share it with other people so they can replicate it. I also really love when people look for answers themselves or refer to stuff before asking me. So that's one of my pet peeves. So I think virtual assistant actually works perfect because they don't really like talking to you. Anyway, they're like in different time zone. English, sometimes they have good like written and reading skills, but not great speaking skills. So it's really good for me to like be able to communicate offline or like asynchronously. But I think just documenting stuff, making sure that there are process, but also some flexibility is really the key. Yeah.
I can relate to that. Like, I hate it when people tell me to Google something, but I'm gonna tell you to go Google it all day before you even try to ask me. Like, I should be like, as your manager, like the last resort. Like, I hired you so that you could learn and figure it out, and because that information is retained so much better if you learn how to do it. Rather than just have somebody tell you how to do it, like just to draw and color a picture for you every fucking time.
Yes, exactly. But sometimes I'm guilty. I'm like, oh, it's written somewhere, like in this doc, and it's not, because I just thought it was there, right? So I'm trying to balance between like teaching people how to look for information, but also not like acting like a bitch and like always assume the answer is there. Yeah, it's definitely like a journey, but I really enjoy. I don't like to think of myself as a boss, because I also know all of our instructors have like their other awesome jobs and lives going on, and they're really doing me a favor by like coming all the way here and teaching. So I really, really appreciate everyone. But I think I like really try to make the pay structure a lot better, because I think pole dance instructors are very underpaid, and if I can do something to like give back, I would love to continue to do that.
Do you think that, like, do you feel like people are perceiving you as like bitchy or not friendly?
I wonder. I feel like maybe you shouldn't ask me. It depends. I think some days, I think like every person, there's just some good days, some bad days. I think my average is kind of like maybe less friendly than the normal people, just because I think so many things are in my head, so it's hard for me to like spend effort on being nice. But I am mindful of that, because when other people are bitchy to me or they're mean to me for some reason, like I don't feel great. So I try to be like friendly, but I also feel like sometimes, especially earlier, like in college or my first few jobs, I'm too nice. I'm always offering to do the extra work, to do the extra help, and then you get taken advantage of. And I think as a business owner, or as we grow older, we just like don't have time for all of those bullshit, and you really need to value yourself and value your time. So it's a good balance, I think.
So what other boundaries do you set then, like to make sure that your time is respected? And
yeah, I think give yourself like more rooms to make mistakes and rooms to just ignore stuff. Like, of course, if I want to keep working, I can just keep going. Like, we can keep having new workshops, new events, new instructors, but at some point it's like too much for me to handle. So I think just having like enough patience and also crowdsource ideas. Like we have been doing this like monthly $10 community class program.
Yeah.
And it's like anyone can come with ideas and then they can pick a date. So I think leaning on other people to like help you, and people that are really passionate, they will have like more ideas. I think that's really helpful.
So you guys have been hosting a lot of workshops with a lot of really incredible pole dancers. How have you managed that?
That is really probably my favorite part about being a studio owner. Selfishly, I'm like, if I want to invite so-and-so from Europe or Asia, it's so expensive. I either have to pay to go there or like have them fly back. But now that I'm a studio owner, I can like use everyone else's money to get them here. But I think it's all about being really genuine and making it easier for them, because all of these great instructors and artists, they have so many things going on. They are going to a different place, a different studio, a different community that they have no idea. Right. So the more you can do for them and just lay out the options for them, the easier it is. So it depends. For the more local instructors, I always pick someone that I have learned from personally, and I knew they're a great teacher. I knew our students will love their style, and I just coordinate with them, like making sure I am meeting their requirements in terms of pay, time, getting to know what they offer, and then I just book flights for them. I offer them to stay with me as much as possible, and it's been really great. Everyone is always happy to like go somewhere else, meet students, but just making these details clear and like really stay on top of communication, because I think the things that ruins everything is like, you ask me something and I get back to you in 2 days, and you get back to me in 3 days, and like 5 days later we're still at our second question, so it's not gonna go anywhere, right? So I try to like keep things organized, tell them up front like what is our capacity, where are we located, what is the travel reimbursement, blah blah blah. And recently we collaborated with 5 other studios in LA, Reno, and Sacramento to invite Coco from China. So that was a pretty big project for me, because there's a lot of back and forth and also getting all the studios on board. But now that we've done it one time, I think I look forward to like inviting more international talents from elsewhere. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yay.
That sounds very time consuming.
Yeah, it's a lot of communication, but I think if everyone is genuinely like in love and want to have someone here, and we can work it out together. Yeah.
So you mentioned cross training and weightlifting. What else do you do to remain injury free, right? Like you were talking, like, you're like, yeah, sometimes I'm sore, but I'm definitely like not injured as often as I used to be.
Warm up is super important. Cool down, I need to do a little bit more. But when I start pole initially, I always thought warming up is a waste of time. I'm like, I have paid for this class, let's just get to the point. But then I realized how important warming up is, so that's really important. I do massage and relax and sleep and eat. I think just the normal stuff that when your body feel like it needs a rest, just let it rest. I do really enjoy going to the gym. I think like similar to learning pole tricks, like lifting weight, you see the progress, even if it's like 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds more, it's really rewarding. And I think no matter what you do, just do something that you enjoy, either it's running or walking or dancing, or do it and then do it with good form. I think that's always the most important thing. Like you don't need to, you're not, competing in weightlifting, you don't need to keep going up, but just make sure that you are looking at yourself and making sure that you have good form. And if you don't know what a good form is, like hire someone to like help you. That's, I think, really important whatever you do.
Yeah, especially like with pole, like you said, even if it's only, like, oh, like I only lifted like 2 pounds more, but either way, like that's still a PR. And those little steps are how you get to be injury free. Or if you push your limits so far past what your body's capable of doing, boom, injured, and then you're off. And then you like end up having to backtrack, if anything.
Yes, and backtracking sometimes is normal. Sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down, just depending, especially for women, like our bodies are different all the time.
Yeah, literally every week.
Yeah.
Hormones, man. That shit sucks.
Yes.
That's the best part though about being on birth control, is that like if it's comp season, I can control exactly when I'm gonna be on my period so that I'm not on it for the week of the competition.
That's smart.
That way I can lift my ass over my head, because if not, like if it's that week, it's not happening.
It's gonna ruin everything.
A handspring, what's that? Can't do it. That's so difficult. So you just finished with Pole Theater USA in St. Louis, right? So how were you able to manage prepping for a competition, hosting all of these phenomenal pole icons, running your studio, working full time? The list goes on. Like you're doing so much and you're doing so well.
Thank you. I have a really love and hate relationship with competition. For a while, I was kind of done with it because I don't feel like my style really fit in, or sometimes I don't feel like I'm good enough. But recently, I've been loving competitions again, and I want to compete more, even though I told myself, do not sign up for anything until next year, but I may sign up for another one. I think having an accountability buddy really helps. It's just someone to be there for you. So for pole theater, I had Veronica, who's another instructor here, also one of my best friends. She was like with me the whole time, even though we're competing different categories. I think having the right mindset, like have an internal like timetable, like okay, by this week I want to be able to start running my routine. Like having some deadline is definitely helpful, but I do procrastinate a lot, especially when you're like in the studio and there's like so many people around. It's just hard for you to be in that headspace. So I just do a lot of like driving while listening to my song and just visualizing in my head. That really helps, and also just watching, even if it's like performance that are completely in different level, different category, it just gives you ideas. But yeah, like having someone who is supportive, who can do it with you, that will be the best. If you have to do it alone, just try to spend some time. Like even if you have no specific agenda, just have an hour in the studio with you and music. Like you will always like have something generated from that.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people that might want to compete but don't know how to make the time to do it?
I would say give yourself a lot more time than you think you need, especially if you're like, I don't have time, right? If you're like, I want to compete, like find something that's like 5 months out. And then the first 2 months, you're just like exploring and putting, movements or combos together, and then maybe go more into the choreography phase. But I think it just depends on like how comfortable you are with like your levels and what type of competition. So like for pole theater, it's more about like stage presence, like what's your costume, what's your idea, what's your character. So those are things that you can think about without having to spend time on the pole or in the studio, which I really, really like. But for something like that's more tricks heavy, right? Maybe go with something that's like a little bit challenging, but not too challenging. I think it's my biggest advice. Like if you are just learning how to do an Aisha, maybe you stick with level 3, or like don't try to immediately put in all of those in your routine. Yeah.
How long does it normally take for you to create a routine from start to finish till you're running through it multiple times?
I think it takes at least a month. Depending on, it takes a long time.
I need 3 months.
Oh, really? I would think a month is long. It really depends, because there's like go-to moves that I always want to do. Like every time I'm like, I don't want to do another Bird of Paradise, but I'm like, there's nothing better. And so if you know kind of like the tricks that you're gonna do, then it's easier. You're just filling in the blanks. But if you're doing a more like exotic generation or more dance and flow heavy one, I think that will take a little more time to choreograph.
Right.
Yeah.
So have there been any specific challenges in finding a balance that you've had to deal with? Like something that's just extra specifically challenging?
I think what's the most challenging for me is sometimes I feel like I'm disappointing other people because I am not available to do blah, blah, blah. So there's definitely a lot more things that I should be doing, like helping all our instructors to promote the class, or like organize more events, or, you know, there's like a million things you can do. And sometimes I feel like if other people have the expectations and I'm not delivering it, that's really challenging for me. But I've been trying to just be okay with that, and also just communicate with my friends. I think when I first started, I was trying to show that, because I want people to feel like confident in me. So I'm trying to show that I got everything covered. But sometimes just showing people your vulnerability and how like, I'm sorry, but I can't do this. Like, I think is also good for them to know.
Yeah, having somebody to talk to about that stuff. Does work, or do they know what you do? Do they know you own a studio?
They kind of, it depends. I feel like I don't really try to talk about it too much, because I'm sure the expectation someone would have is like, you cannot do both well. And I think I try to be really engaged when I'm like, at this job, I want to be really engaged in this job, but then once I'm at the studio, I try not to think about work. But of course, it depends on, you know, the time of the year. It definitely impact each other a little bit. But I think for me, it's been really helpful because my full-time job allow me to feel less stressed about like profitability or making money for the studio, because I know I have like another cushion to lean on. And then the studio gives me some other sense of accomplishment and joy that even at my job, I'm like frustrated, or if I'm not getting promoted or whatever it is, I feel like, okay, there's something else that I've accomplished outside of work. So this doesn't define who I am or how good I am. Yeah.
Wow. That was really powerful. I really like that. So what's the future for you? Are you trying to hopefully just like own the studio and like pole be your full-time thing? Do you like love being able to also have another full-time job?
I don't know. I kind of go back and forth, and especially like as a married woman, there's like other things that you have to think about. Like, are you gonna have a kid? And my mom is also retiring. I have a really special relationship with her, and I also want to spend time with her. So it's a lot of things in my head, and like, do I love San Francisco? It's so expensive, and there's like literal shit everywhere on the streets. Like, is this the place for me? I think I'm still exploring, but because I'm turning 30 this year, I just want to kind of do more with my body, with pole. I want to continue to compete and learn from everyone, and then we'll see where it goes. But for the studio, I think it will be great if we have a bigger space, because our poles are a little close to each other, but I don't have any plans of like opening more studios or, you know, making this my full like income, but we'll see. Never say never.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you mentioned like San Francisco does have a lot of pitfalls to living here, just the Bay Area in general. And I think that's like a big influence financially too, right? Like it's expensive to live here.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we have to do everything.
Yeah,
Right? We
yeah.
can't just pick one, like just work at, you know, my corporate job and like, or just do pole. It's like, even like double income, no kids, it's damn near impossible.
Yeah.
It's so expensive to live here.
But I do feel like it really depends on the person. I do think sometimes you just need to take a leap of faith. You just gotta give it a shot. So I was thinking, oh, what if like my year when I'm turning 30, I just quit my job, I just take a year off, you know, and see where it goes, what happens. Like, I think a lot of time people spend time thinking about, oh, later, once I get to this, I will start doing this. And then you just never get to it and you never do it. Kind of like opening a studio. I have thought about it before, more like just a random thought, but I never follow through until this year. I'm like, I don't care, I'm just gonna do it. I don't care like and you can, I'm being a business and like finance major, of course I know how to do financial projections and financial modeling, but at some point I just don't want to care about it anymore. I don't want to look at it anymore, and you just kind of have to give you the opportunity to do that. And I feel like if you have the desire, sometimes you just give it a try. You just have to push yourself.
Yeah. Do you have anything coming up for yourself in the future, like more, like do you have your next competition lined up?
I have something I'm eyeing. I want to sign up for Exotic Generation Asia because it's in Seoul. There's a direct flight from SF. And then I think there's like some pole camp over there too. I was really hoping my mom can meet me there, but I don't think she can travel. Yeah, but that probably will be next one that I want to sign up for.
That's big.
Yay.
How do you think you're gonna tackle all that? Have you competed internationally?
Internationally, no. Yes, no. I have done the last Exotic Generation in San Diego. That was many years ago. That was in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah.
But I am excited. I have booked privates with Doris. I feel like she has everything that I lack and I want to work on. So I think it will be really great for me, and we'll see. Hopefully we can compete in something together, like internationally, and like travel a little bit too. There's so many competitions now.
Yeah, there are. Which I think I love it. Like, I want to see like more experience competing outside of PSO a lot more. Like, that's where I'm trying to go for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I also love performance or like doing performances. And for my studio, we just had our first showcase in March, and we rented out Flex Vertical Theater, which is another studio in Berkeley, and they have this gorgeous like theater space. And I just feel like that's something so special. Imagine if you're like a beginner student, you're just getting your first invert, but you get to like actually perform on stage with lighting, with live audience. It's just so great and so good to see like all the students enjoy it so much.
Yeah. So we've talked about the importance of like outsourcing and leaning on those around us, and the importance of communication. Do you have any other advice for to help people balance a ridiculous schedule, or more words of wisdom?
I think I'm trying to condense it a little bit. I do think having efficiency in mind is really important. Like, whenever you are just driving or walking, like, try to do another thing at the same time. I know sometimes people say multitasking is not good, but just having a mental map of like, okay, later I'm gonna go do this, and then this is kind of like the goal I try to accomplish. It doesn't have to be anything aggressive. Sometimes I would be like, oh, I'm going to the gym today, I'm gonna do walking lunges and deadlift. Or like, I'm going to the pole studio, I wanna do a good warm up, and I wanna try like this. Just having like an attainable goal, but like tell yourself before that. I think that has been really helpful for me. Just so you can like focus and context switch more quickly. That's really, really helpful. And then just plan some time to rest and decompress, and like having that balance, because you will need it. You don't want to like go, burn yourself out, and then like have to rest for 4 or 5 days because you're so out of it. Yeah.
We didn't even like get around to burnout. Have you dealt with burnout?
I think from work, like from my full-time job, definitely yes. But I have kind of shifted my mindset and not to be so personally bothered by it. I don't know, for some reason, like when I first started working, I was really competitive. I always want to be the best on the team. I always want to be the one that's right. But then at some point I realized it doesn't matter that much anymore, because do I get more money from being the best? Maybe, maybe not. Do you get like, you know, other people don't even know what you do. Like it just doesn't matter sometimes. So I think if you feel like you're someone that give yourself a lot of pressure and being really competitive, then you kind of just have to like chill out and like have a different mindset. But if you feel like you're someone who's always slacking off and like can't push yourself to do other stuff, just surround yourself with people that can motivate you and like have some, you know, habits or goals built in that will push you like a little harder. Yeah, just depending on your personality, I think hang out with people that inspire you and support you is definitely very important. Yeah.
That's a perfect place to end it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again for taking the time for this, especially after just telling us all about that insane schedule. I feel like really honored that I got a window in your schedule.
Yeah, no, thank
Feel
you
so
for
lucky.
driving up here, taking class, dancing. Yes. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yay.
Cut.
Hug.
Oh, that was so good.
That was so
You're so good.